Hello everyone, Z-Tech here. We have another NAS review today. So in my previous video, I had a look at Open Media Vault, and honestly, I came away pretty impressed with Open Media Vault as a whole. There are, of course, some issues I found. Some of the issues I perceived, rather, were issues that Open Media Vault didn't really come out of the box supporting everything I wanted. So, for example, ZFS was not there. You had to get a plugin to do it. Docker was not built in. You had to get a plugin to do it. So, while it's a different way of doing things, initially in my video, what I did was I started setting up the NAS out of the box. But then I realized that a lot of the functionality was through plugins. So what I did was I nuked the whole installation of the NAS, and I reinstalled Open Media Vault. Installed the plugins I wanted first, mainly the ZFS plugin to give me, the capability of creating ZFS pools, and then after that, everything went really smooth and really well. I walked away fairly impressed with the Open Media Vault, the capabilities, the performance, the lightweight nature of it, and honestly, it is a front runner. So today we'll be looking at TrueNAS. Let me give you a little bit of a history about my interactions with TrueNAS and what I know about TrueNAS. So I've watched countless videos of TrueNAS, and before it was called TrueNAS, it was called FreeNAS. Lots of videos, forum posts about TrueNAS/FreeNAS. And when I was doing my NAS selection, when I chose Unraid, FreeNAS at that time was a real contender. However, there was a couple of issues for me at that time. The issues were that I was a little bit cash strapped and I didn't have the money to, for example, go and buy 5 or 6, drives, 4 terabyte drives. So I settled on Unraid because it allowed me to mix and match drives and, kind of ease my way into owning a NAS as opposed to, spending a whole chunk of money up front. So Unraid really worked well for me, but I have found that in time, in using it, I have outgrown Unraid. There's a couple of things in Unraid that I do not like, and I'm looking for a new NAS software. So I've reached a point now where I'm okay with, getting large capacity drives in quantity. So for example, I built a Johnsbow NAS, which takes 5 drives. So I will be getting 5, either 10 terabyte, 12 terabyte, or depending on the price, even a greater capacity drive. So with that in mind, I think it's now time to retire my Unraid server and sell the components to fund my new NAS. So today we will be looking at TrueNAS. Now TrueNAS is probably one of the best, if not the best, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, open source style NAS softwares out there. One of the things is that what really piqued my interest about TrueNAS is that they have released a Linux variant of TrueNAS called TrueNAS Scale. So TrueNAS currently is available in 2 flavors, TrueNAS Core and TrueNAS Scale. I've read a lot of benchmarks about both of the editions. The gist of it is as follows. TrueNAS Core is based on BSD. TrueNAS Scale is based on Linux. As far as OpenZFS goes, I personally think that it is a little bit more mature in the OpenBSD world as opposed to the Linux world. It's fairly new-ish in the Linux world. And for mission critical or scenarios where you need really strong I/O performance or RAID performance, and if your use case is mission critical, I would most probably go with TrueNAS Core. But for home use or lighter NAS applications, I think TrueNAS Scale is the way to go, simply because it has Docker/Kubernetes more integrated within it rather than the OpenBSD variant, which is TrueNAS Core. So I have decided I'll be selecting TrueNAS Scale to review, and I already have it installed in my NAS, so let's get the process started. So we'll go to my NAS IP, and we are greeted with the TrueNAS setup page, so to speak. So it's asking about an administrative user, so we're going to set a password, and we're going to sign in. And there we go. That's the launch screen or the welcome dashboard of TrueNAS. Now, just want to give you a little bit more information about my interaction with TrueNAS. So, I told you that when it came to me selecting a NAS, this was many years ago, TrueNAS wasn't feasible for me simply because I didn't want to invest in many drives at once. I wanted the capability and the freedom of choosing whatever size drive I wanted and just adding it as budget permitted. So I didn't select TrueNAS, and of course, I was using fairly commodity, home consumer level PC hardware. I had a AMD board at that time. I think a Ryzen something. I don't remember, and I do remember that the compatibility with FreeNAS at that time wasn't as good because it was BSD based, right? Like I think it was something about a network card or something I had that wasn't super compatible, and it was causing me issues. I have played with TrueNAS/FreeNAS in a virtualized environment. So, from time to time, if a new major release comes out, I will load it up on Proxmox, just kind of have a look at it. But I haven't really used TrueNAS as my dedicated NAS software at all. I've watched countless videos, so I know it pretty much like the back of my back of my hand, sorry. I've read a lot of forum posts, and honestly, if I did have a scenario where a customer of mine, a corporate customer, wanted a custom designed NAS for them, TrueNAS would be my pick without even second thinking it, without second thought. So let's talk about the dashboard. So the dashboard has a couple of widgets here. You can, of course, hit the configure button and add more widgets. You can also reorder them, so you can drag them around. So for example, I'm not really interested in looking at the TrueNAS help, so I can hit configure and get rid of the help, hit save, and the help is gone. On the left side, you have all your menu items, so dashboard, storage, data sets, shares, data protection, the network, your basically your network interface settings. You have credentials, so you can create groups and users. Virtualization is supported out of the box, so you can run VMs here. You've got apps, which are like an app store, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. You've got reporting, so plenty of reporting here. A lot of good stuff you can see about your CPU, your disks, your memory utilization, so on and so forth. Of course, you can hit auto refresh, so it gives you live information. We have system settings, with various other settings over here. So first things first is we're going to go to storage and we're going to create a pool. Now you can see here, it automatically picks up the 3 hard drives I have here. They're all 4 terabyte WD Reds over here. So you can see that's the model over there. So pretty decent drives for NAS use. They're all identical models, just 3 different drives. So I'm going to select the 3 drives. I'm going to, click suggest layout, and it gives me a suggested layout. Now, of course, it tells me to stripe them. That's the default setting, but I'm going to choose RAID Z, which is equivalent to basically RAID 5, but with ZFS magic inside there. So you can see here, it gives you a little bit more information. And this is what I like about TrueNAS. There's a lot of these help bubbles here where you can click and kind of get more information. So now that we've added the drives and created or are creating a VDEV, we're going to have to name the VDEV and, let's call it TrueTank, okay? So TrueNAS tank, and we're going to hit create. It's going to give us a warning saying that the contents of all the added disks will be erased, so we're going to hit confirm and create pool. Now, this will take a little bit of time, but basically what it's doing is like how we did in Open Media Vault, it's basically creating a RAID Z array of those 3 disks. So it'll take a little bit of time, but we should have roughly about 8 terabytes of usable space. Again, the formula is n-1, so I have n disks, so 3 disks of 4 terabytes each, minus 1, which I'm basically getting 2 disks worth of storage. So they're roughly 4 terabytes each, so roughly about 8 terabytes of storage. You can see here after formatting and file system overhead, it is about 7.14 TB bytes. So far so good. We have created our RAID array. You can see here one RAID Z1. It's 3 disks wide, and each disk is 3.64 TB bytes. Now, we have to go to data sets, and we're going to be creating data sets. Data sets, the best way to explain data sets is that think of data sets as your shares, right? Like, for example, if I go to my unraid folder over here, unraid NAS, these directories or shares are basically going to be your data sets. Okay. And the way how TrueNAS does it is really nice. And it's not really TrueNAS, it's more of a ZFS feature. But with each share, you can kind of configure and tweak the file system to be more suitable for the type of content that will be in that specific share. So before we do that, though, is what I would like to do is set up some credentials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can always go to users and create your users. That's completely valid. But what I like to do is go via group. So I'm going to create a group, and everything will make a lot of sense. Is that I'm going to create a group called NAS users. And I'm going to check Samba authentication because I will be using a Samba share, Windows machines and whatnot. And I am going to hit save. So I've created a group of NAS users, and I'm going to go back to credentials and create a local user, and I'm going to add my username. So here I'm going to create a username over here, add a super complicated password. Okay. And here's the important thing, right? Every time you create a user, if you went that route for directly creating a user, it would create a group for each user, right? So if you had 10 users, you would get 10 groups. What I like doing is putting multiple users into groups. So I'm going to uncheck this. I'm going to say that the primary group is going to be NAS users. So it's in the NAS users, and that's pretty much it. And I'm just going to hit save over here. Okay, so my user has been created, and it's in the group, the right group. And of course, again, I can always tweak the groups and the users and the permissions and all that other jazz. So it's really, really nice. I'm going to go to data sets, and I'm going to create a data set. And the data set's going to sit underneath TrueTank. So I'm going to call it, let's say, YouTube test. And everything else is going to be, the same. No issues over there. I'm going to keep this pretty, stock. However, there are some advanced options, and we're going to talk about the advanced options over here. There's a lot of options you can do. You can, enable deduplication per share. You can do checksumming. There's a lot of settings you can do specifically per share. However, the tweaking that I'm talking about is the record size. So ZFS is a copy on write file system. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that go into extreme depth and are way better than I can explain of what a copy on write file system is. But long story short is that a copy on write file systems write in a sweep, right? It sweeps across all the sectors of the hard drive and starts writing data. So depending on the size of the file, it writes it in chunks, right? So if you have, files that are very large, let's say video files, you want to keep the size larger, right? The record size you want to keep at 1 MB. But if you're going to be using mixed sizes, documents, smaller files like PDFs, maybe smaller images, text files, the standard 128 KB is pretty good. It's a, nice blend between having the larger record size and a smaller record size, and it should fit most conditions. Well, for this share, we're going to leave it at the default, and we're going to hit save. Now we're going to go back here to the newly created share, so to speak, and we're going to hit the permissions of edit, and we're going to set an ACL. Sorry, we're going to add an item, and we're going to call the item is actually going to be a group, and it's going to be NAS users, and we want to give it read, write, and execute on YouTube test. And we're just going to hit save access control list, and that's pretty much it. Now, we're going to go to shares, and as you can see here, these are all the different, network protocols. So SNB for Samba, NFS, iSCSI, and WebDAV. We're going to basically set up SMB. So the way I like doing is go to System Settings and then go to Services, and we are going to enable SMB as a service, and we're going to basically say to start automatically. So every time you reboot TrueNAS, the SMB service does start. In the meantime, while I might not create an NFS share, I will okay, so I have to create an NFS export first to do it, but I will be creating an NFS share simply because I use NFS for my Proxmox backup. So, in due time, I will be creating that. But for right now, SMB is good enough. So I'll go back to shares. SMB share is running. I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to share TrueTank and YouTube test, give it the name YouTube test, and hit save. And it's asking me to restart the SMB service because, settings have to be enabled. And it's asking me again now for the ACLs. I'm going to add an item. I'm going to say it's going to be a group, and it's NAS users. And the NAS users have read, write, and execute access on this particular SMB share. And if I go to my network browser, I go to, not to Unraid, I go to TrueNAS, and I see YouTube test over there, and it works flawlessly. There we go. Let's try creating a new folder. There we go. I have full read-write access, and I can delete, I can do everything. So it was just that easy to create a share on TrueNAS. Now, let's make another share. We're going to create another data set, and we're going to call it videos. And we're going to go to advanced options, and we know that this folder, or this share rather, will have larger files in it. So we're going to put the record size to 1 megabyte or byte, and we're going to hit save. And same thing again. So we've got videos, YouTube test. This is not shared. We're going to go to shares over here. We're going to add a share. We're going to select videos, and we are going to hit save. We're going to restart the NFS service. We're going to add an item. The item is going to be a group, and the group is going to be NAS users. And I want to give the NAS users read, write, and execute permissions on this particular share. Now it's going to be updating the access control lists. And if I go back here to TrueNAS, I should see videos over here. And again, I should be able to create a folder. There we go. I can probably create a text document, and everything works. I can delete them. I have full permissions to do whatever I want on this folder. However, you can see here that this folder is configured slightly differently, or this share rather is configured slightly differently, and this one is configured slightly differently. So again, if you know that your share will have a lot of smaller documents, keep it at the 128 default size. But if you know you're going to be storing like videos, large videos, then I think changing the record size to something larger will cause better speed and more efficiency. So let's do a quick test. I'm going to go to my videos over here. So I've got a large video over here. I'm going to copy this, and let's copy it over to the videos folder. As you can see, it is doing pretty well. Now this is copying it from my Unraid NAS to TrueNAS, so that's why the speed isn't exactly where it should be, but this is more than acceptable for me. If I look at the dashboard again, if I hit configure, now I do see another widget for TrueTank, which is the RAID level I create. I hit save, suddenly I will see TrueTank over here, the pool, and I'll see more information about it. You can see here that even while copying, it is using very little CPU utilization. So everything is going as planned, and it is super easy, super fast to use. Now, one thing you will see is that as you're copying, your ZFS cache is just growing and growing and growing. So this is one thing that ZFS does, is it uses your RAM, or a portion of your RAM, as cache. And I think that TrueNAS is configured to use about 50% of your free RAM as caching. So don't be worried if you see the ZFS cache grow to about 50% of your RAM utilization. This is completely normal, and this is the intended behavior. So while this is copying, let's go and have a look at the apps. Now, the apps are basically the App Store for TrueNAS. Now, when you click apps for the first time, it's going to ask you about a pool, where to store all this, Docker data, so to speak, and we're going to select TrueTank. Now, one of the really nice things is that you can create another pool that's specifically, maybe an SSD pool that's specifically for, these applications, these Docker applications, and put all of those applications there and put, the storage of those applications onto a different pool, which could be hard drive based. So TrueNAS does offer you quite a lot of flexibility in how you want to configure your server, right? So not only can it be a really nice NAS, it can also be a nice VM host as well as a Docker host. So we're going to choose TrueTank because that's the only pool we have. I'm going to choose, and it's going to configure, do a little bit of settings, and configure all of that. It's giving me an error, but I do know that this is a benign error. It should be a benign error. So let's hit refresh. Let's log in again. And here we go. So I don't know why that error happened, but it happened, and we are back to the system over here. And as you can see that there's a fair bit of, apps that you can download from the App Store. However, if you go on GitHub, there is a community app catalog for TrueNAS Scale, which is called TrueCharts, and it is quite expansive. So what we're going to do is we're going to click catalog, and we're going to take this link over here. So github.com/TrueCharts/catalog. Hit copy, go back to TrueNAS, go to catalogs. We're going to go to manage catalogs, and we're going to add a catalog, continue. We're going to call it TrueCharts, and the repository is going to be that link over there. And we're going to hit save. Now, since this is a large catalog, it is already warning you that it's going to take a couple of minutes to set up. So, and it does take a little bit of time. If you look at the CPU utilization, it will be spiking quite high as it adds those charts. So we'll give it a couple of seconds while it sets up those charts, and I will be back in a few minutes. So it took about 2 to 3 minutes, and now the CPU has settled down. Also, the file copied over perfectly onto this share without any issues. Let's go back to apps and look at the available applications, and now you will see that the list is much, much more expansive. So quite a lot of charts here. And the beautiful thing is that, there's a lot of other charts out there which you could add. But my only recommendation is that be careful what charts you're adding. Make sure that the source code or the Docker containers are not contaminated in any way. With TrueCharts, it's, although it's community driven, it is kind of vetted, so to speak. I feel comfortable using TrueCharts over, other solutions. Now, when you do look at the applications, you'll see a mix of both the official and the TrueCharts. I couldn't find a way of deleting the original charts, but I can always do this and hit save. See, I have to keep one. So I'll just keep one, for example, save that. And if I go back to available options, yeah, I still see all of these. The only way to get rid of the official ones is to uncheck here. But the problem is that every time you come back to available applications, you see everything. I wish there was a way to permanently hide that. See, maybe if I go to advanced settings, I couldn't see a way to do this. So anyways, it is what it is. No issues there. Now, one of the complete non-negotiables for me is ResilioSync. So let's see if ResilioSync exists, and it does exist, and we're going to hit install. And there's a lot of settings you can do here, but I think the stock settings are going to be okay for me. So we're going to hit save. It says Kubernetes service is not running. Okay. I think that was the error message I got. I might need to reboot the server, so let me reboot the TrueNAS, and I'll be right back. So again, to reboot TrueNAS, it's very simple. Click over here, hit restart, confirm, and restart. And I'll be back once TrueNAS is up. So TrueNAS has rebooted, and let's log back in. And I thought I'd removed the help. We're going to hit save again. We're going to configure this and add TrueTank, hit save again, and go back to apps, available applications, and let's search for ResilioSync. We're going to hit install. And there we go. There's one change I want to make here, which is I want to change the America Los Angeles. Oh, that reminds me something, is that I need to change a couple of system settings. So let's go to advanced general, sorry. There we go. Go to settings, localization, and I'm going to change this to Toronto and hit save. Because that makes everything default Toronto time. Go back to the apps, go to the available applications, ResilioSync, install that, and it's default America Toronto time zone. And the default settings should be okay. We're going to hit save, and it is now creating the true charts, or rather the Docker containers, or rather TrueNAS uses Kubernetes / Docker as an engine in the back. So it's setting up all of that right now. So it is going to take a little bit of time for the first time because it's setting up Kubernetes. I think it uses Rancher, if I'm not mistaken, as the orchestration in the back end. So it does take a little bit of time for your first chart you're going to set up, but after that it should be fairly quick. So you can see here that it's still setting it up. That it's doing a lot of setup. So it is stopped. We're going to hit start, and it's starting the container. If we look at the dashboard, you will see the CPU utilization is spiking up a little bit while it's doing all the setup. You can see here it's deploying it now. If you look at the Docker images, you can see all the Docker images are here, and you can see that it's using Rancher, right? So it's using Rancher, a couple of other Rancher Clipper things, Core DNS. So again, it's really nice the way how they've got it set up. So now you can see that after the deploying, the ResilioSync container is active. We're going to click open to see if it works, and guess what? It does work. Pretty easy. Let's set up a username really quick. Hit continue. For home use, we're going to call it YouTube test, and we're going to hit this and get started. We want to sync a folder, so what we're going to do is go to my Unraid instance of ResilioSync. We're going to go to right click over here and say share, and I want the read and write, and I'm going to hit copy over here. Go back to the TrueNAS instance of ResilioSync and enter key or link and next. And there we go. I can create a new folder called YouTube test, open that, and it should start syncing pretty instantly. So let's check there we go. As you can see, it is already started to sync, and it's working actually pretty well, exactly as intended. So we got ResilioSync running, which is a no compromise for me. I have to have that. Let's look at a couple of other applications. Get rid of the official. Let's look at here, and you can see here that it's got quite a lot of applications here. Literally anything you want to create a home server, so to speak. But let's see what else is there. Oh, there's a scrutiny. Perfect. There we go. We're going to install a scrutiny also. Scrutiny is a really nice app to basically give you a graphical interface about your drive's smart status, and it's a really nice piece of kit. So let's have a look at Scrutiny. Let's click away from here, and you can see here that Scrutiny is downloading. It's gonna you'll see it says start deploying, and then finally it'll be active. So we have to give it a minute or two for it to deploy properly. So Scrutiny is now active. We're going to hit open, and there we go. So you can see all the drives I have here, and you can see that the NVMe drive I have is failed. The reason is that in 1 year of usage, 186% was utilized. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I go to the details, it's 1.8 petabytes were written to a 500 megabyte drive. Again, this was my mistake. I put some intense log files on that NVMe drive, and it basically ended up killing it. It does work. The NVMe drive does work. The NVMe drive does work. However, this is just for testing purposes, right? I won't be using this on production level system. As you can see here, here's the host right. So it's quite heavily used SSD. Let's go back. We look at the other drives again. You can see all the information here about the drives. You can see here there's some of these drives are kind of starting to die. You can see here that the Ultra DMA counts are rising. You can see it's starting to fail the drives, but they're still running, so no issues there. For the purposes of a test, it's going to be okay. So one of these drives is kind of like, starting to die, but yeah, these are spare drives I have anyway, so no worries over there. So as you can see, it's very easy to set up TrueNAS, containers. Let's have a look at something else really quickly here. Of course, there's Home Assistant, so that's really, really nice. You can set up Home Assistant pretty easily. You've got the Omada controller, which is really nice, and I'm sure you will also see the Unify controller here also because it's pretty popular. So Unify, yep, there we go. Unify controllers there, so really, really nice. Now, I wish there was a way to sort these by popularity or something like that, just to, kind of have a look, but it's not a super big deal about it. So let's have a look at a couple of other things here. So for example, Homar. Homar is a really nice dashboard type of software. So we're going to hit, save. We're going to install this. We go back to apps and installed applications. You will see that, it is deploying right now, and it should be ready pretty soon. Now, Homar is active. Let's open it up, have a look. There we go. That's your, settings here. It's like, let me switch to dark mode because it's super annoying. There we go. So it's very similar to Heimdall that I use, but Homar is different. And honestly, it's also nice. I might do a video about Homar. Again, there's a lot of nice functionality in Homar. I really do like it, and I think I might be using it going forward. However, for now, that's a separate video. It's out of the scope of this video. Let's stick to TrueNAS and talk about TrueNAS some more. Let's look at the reporting. So as you can see here, a lot of nice stats about the CPU. If you look at the disks, there's disk temperatures, which is really nice. Your NVMe and your drive usage throughput is there. You can click memory. You can look at your memory utilization. Again, you can see here the ARC. You can look at the network, so network throughput. NFS shares, if you had NFS set up, your partitions on your disk. So again, you can look at here. The YouTube test is technically, those shares are partitions. You can see the main one, TrueTank, and then the sub partitions underneath it, or the shares rather. You can look at the system again, processes and uptime. And you can also look at the ZFS statistics such as arc size, hit ratios, and a lot of other nice statistics. So honestly, there's a reason why TrueNAS is considered, the best open source NAS software out there, and it's because it's super full-featured, it's super stable, it's continuously developed. There's a lot of new functionality that the TrueNAS team comes up with, and updates are pretty regular, especially when it comes to scale, because it's being actively developed and trying to bring it to parity with core, and of course a little bit more functionality. Core is a little bit different than scale. So as far as I'm concerned, between Open Media Vault and TrueNAS, I'm going to have to give it to TrueNAS, guys. It's just a much more slick system. There's nothing wrong with Open Media Vault. The people who use it, I really do understand why they use it. It's a super simple Debian-based system. Like I said, the way how I saw it was that it's vanilla Debian install, beneath with a web wrapper on top to allow you to do things. And, if you're savvy with the command line, you could pretty much do everything in the command line. It's a Debian system, so easy to, update, maintain, troubleshoot, fix, things like that. TrueNAS, on the other hand, is a little bit more polished to me, right? It's, the GUI really does do most, if not all of the things you want it to do. Of course, there's always command line access. You can enable SSH and, get into the shell and, do all sorts of stuff over here. But in general, I think that TrueNAS is a much more polished solution. And performance-wise, again, there's absolutely zero complaints about presentation. Let's copy some more files to another share, the YouTube test, and you can look at here. So completely smooth, no issues at all. Let's while this is doing a copy to the NAS, let's copy this file back from the NAS to my desktop or a folder. So let's just go to videos and paste it over here. There we go. So, again, it's working flawlessly as intended. And, despite the copying here, the utilization is extremely modest on an i3 10100. So I really think that for my needs, even with running a couple of Docker containers, it's going to be more than enough. 10100 is going to be more than sufficient. So as it stands, I think TrueNAS is pretty much the front runner right now. There's a couple of other NAS softwares I want to look at, but with ZFS being the primary file system in TrueNAS, I think that I really want to stick with a ZFS-based NAS simply because of the resiliency, the performance, and the capabilities of ZFS. I think ZFS is an outstanding file system, and I would like to stick with it. However, I will be looking at other NAS softwares. And just trying to get an idea of the lay of the land and to see what's out there and what suits my needs. But so far, I would say that TrueNAS out of the box does everything I wanted to do very easily, very nicely, and it also is performant and it looks good. It really has a nice interface, very easy to use. Gives you a lot of information here about your data sets, about your shares, about the protections, things like that. For example, like you can set up smart tests, which by default aren't there, and I want to set it on all disks. And I'll do a long test, and I want to do it, at least daily. For example, hit save. So again, very easy to do it. I wish this was kind of out of the box there. There's one more thing I want to talk about, which is so there we have it. I think TrueNAS, of course, deserves its crown as one of the best NAS softwares out there. Honestly, while I will be looking at other NAS softwares, I think TrueNAS is what I'll be going for. But we will see. Who knows? I might change my mind in due time. Hopefully, this was a good look at TrueNAS and kind of helped you to select a NAS software or to maybe change your NAS software. I think TrueNAS is a formidable force in the NAS software space for a good reason, because it just works and it's highly performant and highly resilient. Hopefully you liked this video. If you liked this video, give the video a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.